Today, with things like social media and ever-changing academic demands, kids face more pressure and challenges than ever before.
Julia Nicholson is a best-selling author and former C-suite executive who wants to give kids the tools they need to succeed via the Power Shift, her self-designed program. Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, it's great to have you in. Let's kind of start off with this Power Shift program and how does it really support kids in building their confidence?
Sure. Well, Power Shift is a dynamic program that gives kids simple, really practical mindset shifts that they can start using immediately to build their confidence, courage, and resilience. I mean, I found that many adults think that kids need to find or tap into their power. Most kids think they don't have any power, but I believe they're already using it. It's just going in the wrong direction. And so I help them shift that power so that they can use it for themselves to build themselves up instead of breaking themselves down.
Yeah, you have like a 5-step or a 5-facet program that breaks down things a little bit easier to digest for people to understand. So could you share with us and with the viewers at home exactly what that is and how that effectively works for them?
Yes. Well, what I found is when kids are like overwhelmed, stressed, or feeling like they don't fit in, they don't need a pep talk, they need a power shift. And so what I help them see is that they already have power that they're using, and everyone has the same one. So I use those same sources of power that they're already using and help them redirect them. And we look at things like their perspective, their life experiences, their self-talk, how they respond to change, and their need for control. And I help them shift that to build themselves up instead of tear themselves down.
Yeah. You know, in life, there are failures, setbacks, and just sort of curveballs that happen. How do you help kids sort of navigate when those things come up?
Yes. Well, a couple of things that I do in the Power Shift program is that I give them new language and questions to ask themselves to reframe failure. I actually teach them how to stop trash talking themselves in their head and how to stop thinking the worst of every situation and the outcome. And then I actually show them how that they can use setbacks and failure to their advantage, that what they learn from them, those skills and tools, are going to help them succeed in the future.
Yeah, and another thing that we know you've referenced before is kind of like an internal self-talk, like a talk with yourself about things. How does that help build their self-esteem from the inside?
Yes, so what most people don't realize is their immediate reaction and their self-talk is to tear themselves down. They'd say things to themselves that they'd never say to somebody that they cared about or somebody that they loved. And they don't even realize they're doing it. It's on an automatic pilot. And so what I do is I give them the opportunity and the permission to pause that, to let them know that's just an automatic reaction in their brain that they really don't have any control over, and help them separate that to say, wait a minute, let me think about this. Is there more than one way to look at it? And I actually help them do that by walking them through things during my Power Shift program so that by the time they leave, they actually have things that they can use immediately. And we use examples that they might experience in school or at home or with their friends so that they start to feel that sense of, oh, maybe she didn't mean it that way, or maybe that wasn't the outcome that I expected. It was even better. So I help them walk through it so they get the experience.
Yeah.
These are valuable resources. And when you're thinking of Power Shift sort of long term, what do you really hope that children can take away and kind of keep with them throughout this program?
Yeah, some of the most important things are that I want every kid to know that they are enough. What they have inside of them is already what they need. It's not that they need more power, they just need to redirect it. And so I want them to know that the setbacks and the challenges that they think are terrible, that they want to hide from everyone, those are the things that actually help them build the confidence, the courage, the resilience that they need so that they can move forward stronger each time. It's not things to hide. And when they start to lean into that and embrace that, they actually gain more power over their thoughts, their perspective, and what they can do in the future.
I think
powerful.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents watching would anticipate or hope that they'd be able to that their kids would be able to come to them and they'd be able to help. I think it's a lot easier, isn't it, for an individual on the outside who's not touched them to be able to speak to the kids?
Absolutely. I mean, it's so funny. Even in the business world, sometimes you need to hire a consultant to come in and say the same things that you've already been saying. So yes, it's hard. Sometimes children put this block up, right? The kids don't want to hear it from their parents, but if they hear it from someone else or even from their peers. So what I'm really trying to do is start this Power Shift movement that kids start helping kids to be able to understand what's going on, how to use self-talk that builds them up, and stop trash talking themselves
great.
and tearing themselves down.
Great points. Thank
Julia,
you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
To learn more about Julia Nicholson and her proven 5-facet diamond framework that helps children be equipped with the tools they need to succeed, just visit julianicholson.com.